Today on this episode of the Rant podcast, we're talking about Nissan after Ghosn. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. A quick little tidbit. If I have a lot of jump cuts in this video, for those of you that are watching this, forgive me. I am on the tail end of overcoming both a cold and post-nasal drip. I get it every year. It's a horrible time. But just forgive me. I wanted to get this topic out sooner, but right as I was ready to do the film work for it, I got sick with this, and it's not fun. It's not fun. So, with that said, just bear with me. I will get through this. But this is a topic that I have been excited to talk about for a while, and it has nothing to do with the fact that it has nothing to do with the fact that it's a Japanese car culture thing. It's more to do with what is some of the ramifications involved with Carlos Ghosn being more or less fired from Nissan. Now, in case you've been living under a rock for a while or just don't follow Japanese automotive news, Carlos Ghosn was the CEO of Renault, Mitsubishi by default, and Nissan. And he is kind of the guy who helped pioneer, I hate to put it this way, but he's also kind of part of the reason why we have this SUV thing called the Juke, and now we have the Kicks, and we'll leave that alone for another episode. But he's kind of the guy that helped lead that charge because he helped with the direction that the companies are both in right now. And when I say both, I mean I'm talking about Nissan and Mitsubishi as one entity, and then Renault as its own thing. Now, of course, Renault did not get the short end of the stick because they've had some really nice hatchbacks that unfortunately we here in America don't get, like the Megane, and I wish I could drive one of those. If I ever get the chance to go to France, I need to drive one of those. That's all I gotta say. They are one of my favorite cars to play in video games because they're just different. And they're kind of fun, and I play Forza of the varying types, Horizon or otherwise. They're just kind of the fun, little small hatchback thing that I'll pick up just to tool around in when I'm not playing with other people online. I had one in Motorsport 4 that was actually quite fast, but I digress. The point is that he's kind of the guy who helped pioneer their return to success. For a while, some of these companies like Mitsubishi, perfect example, financial crisis, financial hardship. They are going bankrupt, unfortunately, which is why they had to stop the production of the Lancer, which is sad because, looking at the market now, this is going to tie into what I have to say about it later, but looking at the way that the market is now, I just see plenty of opportunity for sedans to ironically make a comeback. And I say that because where I live, I'm at an intersection of many great traveling roads here in America. You have 95, I-95 if you're from the West Coast, this has nothing to do with you. But if you're on the East Coast, you know I-95 because it's the road that literally goes from the bottom of Florida to the top of Maine. It's very easily accessible. It intertwines with Route 1 quite a lot. It's a very long road, and it's not even 20 miles from me. I live near Route 15, which is an old historic highway that runs through Virginia up into Pennsylvania, and I want to say parts of upstate New York, but it doesn't go by the name Route 15 at that point. But it's a road that a lot of people travel on because it's very easy to get around. It's a lot more scenic. It's actually a historic road. It's called the Journey Through Hallowed Ground if you're in the Maryland, Virginia area. And it's a place where you see a lot of vehicles of all kinds of states. Alaska to Florida, Texas to Hawaii even. It's just, there's a large amount of cars that come to this area. It's also the DC area, so people from around the country are here anyway because of work, because of travel, because of maybe having to stop over because they're trying to go somewhere else, or they want to stop at a nice, cool, historic place like DC. All this ties into, I'm noticing a rise in sedans. Not small sedans, but four doors. And bigger sedans. There's a reason why wagons have started to become a thing again, because people are realizing while SUVs are cool and all, they are thirsty sons of guns when it comes to fuel. And wagons, with almost the same level of practicality for us city folk as a sedan, not sedan, but a bigger vehicle like an SUV or truck, yes, better fuel economy, tend to be more comfortable, and are actually able to park in a garage without worrying about headroom, because some garages out here are low. So with that in mind, I'm kind of starting to notice that trend. I mean, that's why companies like Mercedes have released a couple different cars that are into that bigger saloon slash, I want to call it a hatchback, but it's not really a hatchback slash station wagon design. It's just something I've noticed. And with that said, going back to the whole deal with Nissan, we're not going to really talk about Renault, because Renault, they're good. They're good on their own now, at least from what I can see. When it comes to Nissan and Mitsubishi, however, there was a lot of involvement of Ghosn on Nissan. I mean, there are reports, I was reading through a bunch of them online, and Ghosn more or less was using their money to pay for his own stuff, and he was taking huge paychecks according to the reports that I've seen. I've read a number of different articles, from the Washington Post to CNN to I have the New York Times, I think, up right now. I've read the Financial News, and like, it's, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that this man is being accused of. When I say a lot of stuff, I mean a lot of money that this man is being accused of more or less embezzling. It's fraud on the highest level. And even if he gets a light sentence, I mean, the man's fairly old. I'll just be straight up with you. He's not exactly the youngest and most spry of all people. So, with that said, I don't know. He might not actually live out his sentence, if you know what I'm saying. He might unfortunately pass in jail if he were to do that. Now, I obviously, despite what he's done, I still wish the man the best of health, because we don't wish bad upon anyone. But the point is, he was very indicative of the direction that some of our favorite companies, Nissan and Mitsubishi, took. So, because of that, what is the future of Nissan and Mitsubishi from here out? This is, again, an opinion thing. I really don't have a straight answer as to what's going to take place. But, because as it is right now, like, there's a lot of internal turmoil trying to figure out what to do from here. So, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how Nissan recovers from, this huge loss of a directional leader who was able to keep his house in order, despite using his house for his own good, but also, like, the image that this puts onto the consumer. And if I remember correctly, I'm going to put it out there like this. If I remember correctly, I do believe that Ghosn was part of the reason why we have the Eclipse Cross, for one thing. I believe he was also part of the reason why we have things like the Juke and the Kicks. I've already said that. But also why the Evo is coming back as an electric SUV, which is just a slap in the face to everything us Evo enthusiasts are about. We eventually came to accept the 4B11 Evo 10, partly because it stuck around for 10 years, which is longer than any other Evo before it. You know, there were several iterations of the Evo in just a small period of time. I think it was 5 years from the Evo 7 to the Evo 9. That's 3 different bodies of cars right there. That's one chassis, the CT9A. And then you get this new one with the Evo 10, and it's there for 10 years, and it's never changed really once. Yeah, we finally came around to accept it, even though it doesn't have the normal engine that a proper Evo would have. I'm about to trigger the internet with that one. Now that we're moving on to this electric thing, it's just like, come on. Electric cars, like, we get it. They're innovative, they're cool, but they've been around for hundreds of years. They're not a new thing. Do your homework. You'll see. Electric cars have been a concept since the early 1900s, if I remember correctly. So, just, seeing this craze over that, it's just like, come on, guys. We can do better than this. It's a sports car anyway. It's going to be low production volume numbers. Why are we even looking at this option? Mercedes did it, and they completely shut down a line of their cars. Okay? It's called the SLS. Look it up. Digressing once again, because I'm getting very easily distracted. This is very... Like I said, I'm excited to do this topic. Ghosn, out of the way. Will Nissan look at their statistics, their numbers, and go, okay, what can we actually do from here out? Because as the parent company for Mitsubishi, they have a lot of leeway with what they can say. They have the power to just overthrow someone else's authority within Mitsubishi, at least the motor company side of it. So they could, if they really wanted to, make us all very happy and create another FTO, GTO, 3000 GT, if they wanted to. The market at this stage in the game is ripe for it. We have the return of tuner car culture from the factory, beginning with the BRZ, ironically, several years ago, and now it's really kind of carrying forward as we start getting more and more sporty cars. I mean, when was the last time you thought about it and realized that the new Corolla, of all things, is now going to have 300 horsepower? When was the last time you even thought a Honda would have 300 horsepower? Okay, that was the S2000, and that was kind of the tail end of tuner from the factory culture kind of being around. So when you think of it in that perspective, there's an opportunity that Nissan could really capture on that I feel like Ghosn was in the way of. And that's just, I mean, I've spoken many times on how I think Nissan's leadership needs to really reanalyze what people want. Because the reason why so many people are just buying SUVs from the factory is because we want a sports car. So we're waiting for that, you know. And you only gave us two options. One that cost $60,000, the 370Z, and another one that you pretty much just add a zero and then you'll have that car, you know. It's the GTR. It's an awesome car, but it's not a lot of options for sports cars right now under Nissan's umbrella. Then you have Toyota doing something very similar, and of course, as we all know, Mitsubishi is being reduced down to pretty much trucks, which is terrible. It shouldn't be that way. They were part of the reason why tuner culture existed in America, with the things like the Eclipses back in the day and DSM and all that jazz. Like, come on, like, do us some justice over here, man. Listen to at least the American market, because we want a good car. We want a good sports car. We know that it's going to cost in this day and age money, but like, try to aim for the 28 to 30,000 mark. You don't have to make it crazy nice, you know. We know it's possible because it's been done. That's what Scion was, and there's a reason why tons of those things sold in America. Might not have sold the best, but it still sold quite well for there to be tons of TCs running around and XBs and XDs still trolling the streets, being loud and obnoxious as they always have been. I'm just saying, now that Ghosn's out of the way, and this whole idea that we must build cars that appeal to people who are supposedly young adults, which I doubt very much so. I think those people are in their 30s going to the 40s. Now that this person is out of the way, and the leadership might actually be able to swing other things now that the books aren't being meddled with, you know, because as it's being reported, the man put his own debts onto Nissan to try and pay for them. I think the money might actually be there for us to see an S16 in the future. And I think that they should. If they really want to capitalize on this, you know, this generation that is now older and they want a good sports car and they look back over their childhood and they go, you know, my S chassis from back in the day was good. You know, I'm talking about people in their 50s. I'm talking about people like my dad's age. Okay, they're going to be the people who are going to be buying the new Supra next year. And that's mostly because it's a Supra. You know, BMW partnered with them for a while, but then they split ways and it kind of developed on its own. Despite having a BMW plant inside of it, it was TRD tuned, if I remember correctly. So it's not exactly the same thing as the new Z that's coming out from BMW. I'm just saying, ride on those coattails. Honda kind of owned, and when I say owned, I mean kind of owned 2017 with the NSX and Acura. and then the release of the Honda Type R, because that was something that was on a lot of journalists' minds and that was being spoken of a lot. And then you had 2018, which was building up for this new version of the Supra, and then that concept, I think it was Pininfarina GTR, that was super cool. You know, this idea that Japan still can make a really dope sports car, I think it needs to be capitalized on. And this would be Nissan's opportunity to make a budget sports car like a BRZ technically is. Because if I remember right, some of those are selling for less than $30,000. Someone take notes somewhere, please. That's Ford Focus money, which was one of the more popular tuner cars here in America because it was practical as it was a hatchback, but it was also fast and a 2-liter, so it fit into certain race classes. Like, come on, people. Do you not read the writing on the wall here, Nissan? People want the S-body, the S-chassis back. This is an opportunity to capitalize on it now that you might be able to recover from some of these financial mistakes with Ghosn. It's just, this is an opinion, like I said. You don't have to agree with it, but I do think that this is something that people are going to be asking now that Ghosn has been let go of by Nissan. You know, will this removal of this person affect what kind of vehicles we start seeing in the future? Because, like I said, the market's ready. It wants to receive a new sports car, or at least a resurrection of one, but done right. Key point, done right. Not like the Eclipse Cross, which was the biggest letdown ever. It might be a nice SUV, but we wanted to see a 2-seater all-wheel drive 4-banger turbocharged ripping up the streets of Japan again, not that thing that we got instead. Okay, putting it out there, being real with you guys. I'm just saying, this could be that opportunity that we see. Or maybe we get, some of our Mitsubishi sports cars back in addition to some of these Nissan sports cars. You never know. It's an opportunity. But with all that said, I've rambled long enough. I want to know what you guys think. Can Nissan, now that Ghosn's out of the way, change the way that they view their customer base? Or do you think they'll stay the course with this sort of family-friendly approach, tangled with Star Wars and all of that stuff? Do you think they can come back to their roots as a company that can develop a good sports car? Or do you think they're just going to kind of maintain their bearings and keep sailing on the sea of boringness? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, thank you all for watching. God bless you guys, and we'll see you next time. Peace.